Big show for you today on Extra Time. The Clash of the Titans. Yeah, after 5 weeks. DC don't show up. LAFC are juggernauts. But, man, you was there. They're scouting Lucho.
Yeah, maybe you should be scouting Diego Rossi. But it turns out LAFC not the only team that could win on the road. What up, Loons?
What up, Miguel Ibarra? He's going to join us in the show.
And providing a little perspective for what's happening out in Portland right now.
They need it.
Man, you legend Nani getting it done right now in Orlando. 2 Bayern legends maybe on the way to Major League Soccer.
Extra Time starts now. Oh, from New York, you are listening to Extra Time, driven by Continental from the AT&T MLS studios in Midtown Manhattan. I am Andrew Wiebe with my partners in soccer, Matt Doyle, David Goss, Bobby Warshaw. The duo is back. You two being the duo because everybody seems to want you together again. At Extra Time, in the email, people on the streets, there is a movement taking place, and it is reunite Doyle and Bobby on Extra Time, and Bobby feels awfully good about that. I can see right now. You just holding the smile back.
It's just good to be here with you guys. Anytime here with you guys, it makes me happy.
Wow.
Record for Bobby talking in an episode.
I know.
That early.
Yeah, had to just pull it out of him. Meanwhile,
Doyle brought it.
Doyle's doing his Bobby impression, and
I'm just here so I don't get fined.
Exactly. A big show here today, of course. In the second segment, we have Miguel Ibarra, Batman, talking about Minnesota United. They're going to make history on Saturday. They're open Allianz Field. They've made history 3 times this year. They're 1 win short on the road of their all-time total before the beginning of this year. They had 4 in 34 games. Now they have 3 in 5 games. We'll talk to Ibarra about that, about Minnesota soccer history, and much, much more. The mailbag's coming. Good stuff. Always, yeah?
Great stuff. World Cup veterans coming to Major League
Cooking up
Soccer.
something great for you? Okay. MLS Week 6, let's do it. We start in one place, the nation's capital. DC United, LAFC. It was billed as a clash of titans, or at the very least, the top of both tables after 5 weeks, which maybe Titans is a little bit overblown for that one. At the end, it was just a statement for LAFC, 4-0. Wayne Rooney sent off an ugly tackle. Lucho Acosta neutralized for the most part. Bob Bradley, got to be really happy about that. He's definitely not going to listen to this for any sort of insight on that game, in case you saw his quotes. I want to pour one out because we're not going to have Bob on the show anymore, which is disappointing, but I guess understandable.
I'm not giving that up yet. I dare you, Bob Bradley.
Come on, Extra Time. Return to the show. I mean, LAFC are top of the Supporters' Shield. They're top of everybody's minds. Carlos Vela is top of the Landon Donovan MVP campaign. They're top of everything right now. It's like Atlanta United Part 2. This is basically what Atlanta was last year, except Vela in Almiron's spot and LAFC in Atlanta's.
Yeah, it's what we thought. I think in a lot of ways, it's what we thought that they would be after the strong year that they had last year. And it's worth remembering back to 2018 because that team didn't come out of the gates fully formed. They got results, but they were missing a lot of pieces. And they did their offseason rebuild during the 2018 season. So they didn't have to add a ton of new pieces this winter. Basically Segura, the center back, and that's about it. And so they have a level of chemistry and cohesion that you don't often see in a second-year team. You don't often see it in any team. And they're just annihilating teams right now. They have the best attack in the league by far. Their defense has held up well. And this was a statement game. And the statement in D.C. against a team that had only given up 1 goal and hadn't lost all year was, we are eons better than you. And they showed it for 90 minutes.
Paul Arriola basically said that afterwards. He said, I watch this team. I like Bob Bradley. Christian Ramirez is my friend. I watch LAFC. They know what they're doing, and they did it to us. We have a long way to go. I mean, that's pretty incredible for an opposing player to come out and say something like that. Now, you lost 4-0, so you kind of have to dap them up, right? You can't, sit back in the cut and be like, you know what?
Come on, man. There are players and coaches in this league who will complain and blame the refs if they lose 4-0. We see it every week.
So Lee Wynn's played 2 games this year. Andre Horta is looking more and more like, I'm just going to say it, like a bust because he just can't get on the field. He costs a lot of money, a little bit of unknown there. But Carlos Vela is the difference, Bobby. I mean, Carlos Vela, if Kalen Carr was here, he would be sitting here pounding on the table saying, I told you so, I told you so, I told you so. This is the best player in Major League Soccer, and it's not even close.
Yeah, this dude's nice, huh? I mean, there's nothing else to add other than that, because it's not like he does anything that unique or that different than anybody else. He is just better at everything he does, right? He's better with the ball on the run. He's better at that final pass. He's better at finishing with his left foot. It's hard to break down specifically what makes him different, except that he's just better at everything than everyone else right now.
But this isn't going to alleviate the big question with him, which is, Give me 30, 34 games.
Right.
Give me a playoff
We've all seen
run.
this before from Carlos Vela.
We saw it last year.
We saw it last year.
At the beginning
we've
of
seen
the
it
year.
in La Liga. You know, like we've seen in La Liga has been the best league in the world for about 15 of the last 19 years, and there were entire month and a half at a time where, other than Messi, Carlos Vela was the best player in that league. And then he would disappear for 2 or 3 months.
So this is the conversation every time. And I get the conversation because history is history.
Jeez, Weeby, easy on
I
that
know.
coffee.
I just started drinking this coffee, and I'm getting a little bit jittery right now. But why couldn't this be different for Carlos Vela? Everything he says is at least the right thing. Bob Bradley seems to have gotten under his skin or motivated him in a certain way.
No one here can tell you that it can't be. All we can tell you is that it never has been. So there is no reason to believe that this year isn't different. And I think we talked about this a little last week. The responsibility he's been given and the way he's been pushed by Bob Bradley is different. He's the captain. He's the leader. Now guys are looking up to him. The franchise, literally the face of this franchise, was built around him. No team in the world can do that because there's no such thing as, new clubs at the first division, basically anywhere else in the world. So all of this stuff is unique, and it has the makings of what can push him from a mercurial great player to a leader and an MVP.
A mercurial
and a champion.
talented player.
Yes.
To a legitimate great player. How much of this is Bob Bradley pushing him? How much of it is Tata Martino pushing him? Because I don't think it's a coincidence that he's playing with fire every single week while he's on the outside of Elche. I think he wanted to be there 2 weeks ago during the international weekend, and I think he's probably pretty ticked that he wasn't, and he wants to prove it again and again and again.
He's also a guy who's always had negative press from the Mexican media and from the general public, but he's always been a continent away from it. Now he lives in LA, and I think, because you saw it last year too when he first started, which was, should Carlos Vela have gone to LAFC? And he started the year last year like this, especially El Tráfico. I mean, we talk about Zlatan's performance, but Carlos Vela ripped the LA Galaxy up in that game before Zlatan came on the field. And I think a lot of that is not just the Tata stuff, but just in general of him saying, like, I'm the best player in the Mexican national team pool. I'm one of the greatest players in my country's history. Respect me for that. And I think he plays with that fire in general.
Nerd out for me, Bobby, on the soccer.
Yeah.
What's going on with LAFC? If for somebody who just watches these games is like, whoa, lots of goals, this is cool. Like, take them inside it.
Yeah, I was waiting for the moment when I was gonna throw this wrench in there. LAFC were fantastic, right? I'm not gonna try and tell you that they aren't an amazing team. I saw this game a little differently. I didn't see an LAFC team that totally outmatched and totally outplayed DC United. I saw a DC United team who misplayed 4 passes, and LAFC took it down their throat and scored.
Yep.
And to me, that's a really important distinction. Sometimes you see a game and you say that team is undeniably better in every phase of the game than the opponent. That's not what happened here. There, even the first 15 minutes between the time that Vela missed that penalty and they got the first goal, I even thought to myself, man, LAFC have looked kind of stagnant the last few weeks. Yeah, they crushed San Jose, but they barely beat Real Salt Lake, who was shorthanded in LA until that last second Walker Zimmerman goal. So I'm not going to try and take anything away from LAFC, but I don't think that this game says they are miles better than anyone else or that DC is miles behind them. If DC doesn't misplace, and they weren't even ones that LAFC forced them into messing up. They were literally just simple passes you figure that these guys make 95 out of 100 times.
So I think that said, like, I'm with you on a lot of that. One being like this, I don't think this was a tactical victory for LAFC. I think this was, they went out there and they played harder. And it showed. Mark Anthony Kaye and Eduard Atuesta and Latif Blessing dominated Russell Canouse and Junior Moreno and Lucho Acosta. And the fact that that LAFC have that in their bag this year, I'm not sure they had that. I'm not sure they could go out there and get effort victories. And the thing is, when you have frontrunners like Carlos Vela and Diego Rossi, and Christian Ramirez was very good, and Adama Diamande before he subbed off, those are two pretty talented and skillful center forwards. When you have those guys up front, engine room victories can end up being spectacular, stylish blowouts. But I didn't think that it looked out there, DC United have no chance. They just kept losing every individual matchup.
Even going down a man, they had 2 cleared off the line, 3 cleared off the line, right? It was close, and granted game states and all that, but they showed that they actually can go toe-to-toe with LAFC at moments.
You mentioned that, like, lethality, which is definitely a word we've found out recently. In, the open field, when you have the opportunities, give the ball away, and all of a sudden you're Monterrey, and DC or Sporting Kansas City, to use another analogy there. Diego Rossi. Diego Rossi gets the hat trick. he's kind of been a unsung, very productive sort of player. And I look at him and I think he's probably going to be number 1 in 24 under 24. And I should have said 22 under 22 and immediately realized the error in my ways. He'll probably be that guy.
Behind Alex Wheel.
But going to ignore that. Is he the next guy who could be sold for a lot? Is he a Miguel Miron type? What's the comp here?
He's not gonna be sold for $30 million.
Yeah, okay. I said a lot, so we can that's a good point though. Let's calibrate our scale here. A lot being multiple millions of dollars.
I think I could see low 8 figures. Yeah, I think he has that. I mean, he's still just 20 years old, maybe just turned 21. He has the type of elite pace that big clubs look for, and he knows how to finish. Now, he doesn't do a lot of other stuff. He doesn't beat guys off the dribble. He's not a playmaker. He can combine a little bit, but he's not a guy who opens up the opposing defense with a touch. But if you put him in the right situation, and I don't know, I mean, maybe he's a Christian Pulisic type, where you have him on the opposite wing of where the playmaking actually happens, so that he can use that gravity to get in behind and find space. But the people are scouting MLS. We know it because we saw who got sold last year and for how much. And I'm sure that every scout from around the world who has a couple dollars to spend is looking at Diego Rossi. 6 goals in 6 games, 1 assist. I said comp. Do you have a comp, Bobby? Do you have something that you compare to this guy?
The best comp on the biggest stage I can think of is maybe a Pedro for Barcelona, when he wasn't that involved in the play, but he was stretching the game behind. He was real of a guy who finished off plays, opposed to Doyle's laughing over there, and I really have no idea why. But I thought that was Pedro's role. It feels pretty similar. He obviously, Pedro wasn't as reliant. They didn't rely on Pedro for goals as much as this LAFC team relies on Rossi, but that is the best one I have in my mind. Is there a better one? Hold on. We're gonna call it. What's wrong with that one?
Pedro wasn't used to stretch the field vertically for Barcelona. They basically didn't stretch the field vertically when he was there because they had 85% possession and it was all in the attacking third. He was a far side poacher, and like you could say functionally. That's anyway. We're getting into the weeds. We're going to argue about 2011 Barcelona on this show.
Give me a real comp here.
No, this is important though, because Diego Rossi doesn't necessarily stretch the field. He is also a far-sided poacher. He does it in doing that. He also stretches the field because of his runs, but it's a very similar function outside.
Pedro was not a through the lines player. Diego Rossi is still first and foremost a through the lines player, which is why I mentioned Christian Pulisic. Christian Pulisic's at his best when he's off the ball, going through the lines using his straight line speed, and I don't think Pedro was ever that fast.
Invent me a rumor then. Invent me a rumor in the summer or whenever it happens. With what level clubs, for how much?
After RB Leipzig sell Timo Werner, then they buy Pedro Rossi. Diego Rossi.
Wow.
Diego Rossi
You got in his head.
for $11 million and convert him to that type of high pressing number 9.
Everything we've described about him, most clubs in the world, but especially you're talking about the top 4 or 5 leagues, teams 5 through 10 don't control possession.
Yeah.
And so he's got speed and he can finish.
Yeah.
Every one of those teams will want a player like that, and he's 20 years old.
Yeah, I actually think RB Leipzig is kind of a reach, to be honest with
Andrew, to give you a better answer, because you probably don't actually care about a Pedro. You want to know for transfer value.
I'm just curious as I look ahead and I kind of see a young player who I like and who performs in this league, what that might mean in the future.
Is it fair to say Diego Lainez?
I would
the Mexican international from Club America who just got sold to Real Betis.
No, it's not.
He's too high, right? We can say that he's too high.
But they're such different players.
Well, all right, I understand that. I'm saying in terms of market value.
Okay.
Right? Sorry, well, I'm not doing a player comp. I'm doing a transfer comp.
The player comp got us down in some tricky waters.
Sorry, we're in the weeds here.
He got sold for about $16 million.
Yeah.
What is what it looks like to me. So what does that make Diego Rossi? 10 to 12?
Yeah, I mean, I think
that feel fair?
Yeah, he's less because he's a little older, but yeah.
We'll see.
Doyle's so unhappy right now.
Maybe Manchester United saw something they liked. I don't know. The Athletic's Pablo Maurer, who you know from this very podcast last week, talking about Lucho Acosta and the possible moves for him this summer, reported this weekend that Manchester United was there to see Lucho play. Dave, you said they should keep him?
Yeah.
Regardless? But when you
I didn't say regardless.
Oh, okay.
I said the idea is if the transfer fee you're probably going to get for a guy who can sign a
If it doesn't match up.
Yes. If someone comes in and offers $12 million for him, you should sell him.
My point on this, as I hear Manchester United and PSG before, is that even if DC United, which it looks like is probably the most likely scenario where Lucho leaves, whether it's in the summer or afterwards, because let's be honest, Manchester United, PSG, those are clubs of a certain stature that just about any player.
Do you think a mid-tier EPL team really has that much pull?
Couldn't resist.
Sorry.
I like that, though. I like it. I like how you couldn't resist on that one. But I think it's a win for DC no matter what. Because now you have, a la Miguel and Miron, a different situation if they don't get the same amount of money or, relatively speaking. Everyone in the world knows that Manchester United has scouted your players. Everybody in the world knows this PSG has scouted your players. So the next Lucho, the next Lucas, the next Almiron, maybe you have a shot at it. You have a new training facility. You have a new stadium. You showed you could sign Wayne Rooney. They know about you because of that. All of a sudden, DC United went from the team that plays in RFK that has raccoons and, falling concrete from time to time to a team that actually feels like a club that the best prospects in the world or the best players in the world would come to. So I think regardless, DC is going to win here. Now it's up to Dave Casper to figure out how to get a short-term win, whether that be moving Lucho, whether that be signing Lucho long-term and then maybe selling him, or signing him long-term and saying, stick around, man, let's win championships with you. It's gonna be really difficult. I'm fascinated to see how it turns out. I just think that they've won, maybe not short-term yet, but in a long-term sense, just based on the news cycle.
I don't have any arguments with that.
Yeah, I would
but
agree.
they could lose it real bad if they lose him for free. That's what they got to figure out.
That is the challenge. We'll see what happens with DC and Lucho Acosta. Let's talk Zlatan. Let's talk Felipe. Halftime of this game in Vancouver at BC Place. Felipe was asked about the buzz in the stadium with the big star player there. It was 0-0 at the time, by the way. The Brazilian said this: I think this is kind of sad because this is for him and it should be for us because we play at home. Doesn't matter who comes here. Got to support us and cheer harder for us and not for the opponent. I think that's the way it should be. He's basically saying to his fans, hey, hold off on the Zlatan love. We're here. We're your team. We're the Vancouver Whitecaps.
He thinks that's the way it should be. That's fine, but that's not the way it is. You have 1 point this season for the Vancouver Whitecaps. You've had a tough start to the season, coming off a year in which you didn't make the playoffs, and you were one of the worst teams in the Western Conference. And we've all been a part of experiences or stadiums where people show up to see a star player come from the opposing team. You and me both went to a Beckham game when he came with the LA Galaxy.
Mini America Ballpark, baby.
Yeah, I missed the first one in New York. I went to the second one. I had to work the night of the first one. It still kills me, the 6-4 epic game.
I was at that one.
Yeah, oh God, Doyle, you don't deserve anything.
I think it was 5-4, by the way.
It was
5-4.
5-4, yeah.
Then I was at the second one, and people are upset, people are frustrated, but if your team's not performing, and the draw is when the opponent comes in and has this big-time star player, and Zlatan's, to some people in that hemisphere of the top 3 or 4 or 5 players in the world for a sizable stretch of time, whether it leads to production and championships or not, Bobby will discuss that with you after, then that's gonna draw excitement, that's gonna draw energy. Yes, Felipe, everything you said was right. Go out there and win 5 games in a row, and then you can say it. And if it's still true, it probably won't still be true at that point. Fans want to go to sporting events, have fun, watch success, watch exciting soccer, and move on. And I don't think that Vancouver was outplayed in this game, and I don't think that they deserve to lose this game. Obviously, they had a penalty kick in the first 30 seconds. I cursed Ali Adnan by picking him as the guy I liked last week, and he misses that. And yeah, maybe the whole thing's different at halftime.
Hold on.
With
He misses that? He goes there for Panenka with Zlatan in the back whistling, and he completely biffs it.
Yeah.
He just biffs it so hard.
It's a miss.
I mean, I'm with you. What you're saying is give him something to cheer about. Well, they had the opportunity. It could have been 1-0 at that time. But ultimately, I don't blame Felipe for saying what he said. I get it, man. You're at home. You want to hear and feel the love. But it's also a huge opportunity if there are a bunch of people there to see Zlatan, because maybe they fall in love with you. Maybe they love Zlatan, but all of a sudden they're turned on to the point that the Vancouver Whitecaps are starting to play better soccer. But yeah, that's the point. You had an opportunity. Like, it was there for the taking. And instead, Zlatan gets to get on Instagram afterwards and say, Vancouver, you are welcome, and sign autographs and be Zlatan. So instead of you having the last laugh, Zlatan has the last laugh, and that's the problem.
I respect the hell out of Felipe for saying it. I really do. And I kind of felt the same way as a neutral watching it. And I mean, in part, it's because I've been in the stands of MLS games as a fan before, and I know how it feels to look at a team that's playing terrible soccer, and sometimes the fans who are showing up are only showing up because of the guy on the other team. It feels awful, and I respect him for saying it, but you're right. And what Kalen, our good friend and colleague Kalen Carr said, I think, is that win. Win some games and show it. And there's a reason why. I mean, the Caps have been in the league, 8 years, and they've played mostly losing, mostly pretty ugly soccer. The fan base takes a hit. Any fan base in the world takes a hit after that.
No doubt. Look, San Jose fans have been taking a hit. Last year was tough. The start to this year has been tough. But then Tommy Thompson came out pregame, looked into the camera, and I mean stared directly into the viewers at home, their souls, and said this.
I don't care what happened last game. I don't care what happened the game before that. Today we're going to be different. And if it's not this week, it's going to be next week. I believe in this team. I believe in this coach. I believe in this organization. We're going to fix this.
Organization.
My goodness.
I mean, get this man
that
up in
felt
front
like
of a
the
crowd.
Varsity Blues reboot right there. I expect him to end it with, I do not want your life.
I mean, that was incredible from Tommy Thompson. But it's beyond that, because a winless team in the Quakes, after that stump speech, went out and won 3-0 at home. And we're up 3-0 at halftime on the Portland Timbers, who I'm going to say were in the championship game last year, but obviously are having some real tough times right now. That's backing up your words, man. That was incredible. I was shocked by this result. What happened? How does this happen?
I'll start off by saying the Earthquakes made two key changes to me. And Matt, you highlighted one of them in your article, which was bringing on Danny Houston, moving Shea Salinas up to winger, having Christian Espinosa on the right. It was basically the fastest lineup that they can play, meaning it was a lineup most able to follow players all over the field and be able to compete for duels. It's not necessarily that they were losing their duels. It was that they weren't even close enough to the player to get there. So they basically put out, with Houston and Salinas and Espinosa and Marcos Lopez on the field, just their fastest lineup possible. The second thing I thought made a big difference is Florian Jungwirth entered the team. I don't know, was Garcia hurt? I missed that part, but Florian Jungwirth enters a team, and he actually read that position really well, because that center back position is like strangely a libero spot. It's the only spot in the field that doesn't man mark. Everyone else is 10 for 10, and he's the one. Basically, both a center back on each team is free when you man mark, and he read the position really well, and that was a big difference. Jungwirth stepped up, which we haven't been able to say much in the last couple of years.
Wando's whooping it up on the bench. He did not start in this match. You mentioned the speed. That may have been the decision for Mateus Almeida. Mateus Almeida's jumping on his assistants. I mean, they rightfully so, I think, after the pain to start this season, Matt, celebrated this thing because they needed it. When you have Tommy Thompson taking it on himself to do that pregame, obviously, you need some manna from heaven.
Well, at least it's resonated. This is a team that outscored 14-2. The last time out, they looked like they were a team that frankly had given up. And to come out in this game and play that first 45 minutes, especially the way they did, I mean, they cranked it up to 11 and were all over Portland. And they ended the game. They ended the game within 30, 35 minutes. And it's exactly what the doctor ordered. I'm still not buying Quake's stock. I still think that a team a little more secure through midfield, a little better ideas of how they want to build up, can rip this Quakes team apart. But 3 points, man, it's a good start.
I don't know, penny stock, you might have some good, might get some good return on that one. Just take a chance. Portland 4 straight losses, Bobby. Mm-hmm. We keep asking this question, and I'm wondering if you have a different answer or it's the same old story. What's the deal with the Timbers?
Here's my answer. I'm not going to tell you that they don't have problems that they need to fix, but they also absolutely should not panic. If you look at the last 3 seasons and you look at their 17 home games, they collected 37, 37, and 38 points. The 7th spot over those last 3 years in the West averaged 46 points. And this was never a team that's going to fight for Supporter Shield. They start 12 games on the road. It was always going to be a hard season. Whenever this happens, we saw with DC United last year, Houston, SKC, you just want to make it into the playoffs when you go through that crazy type of year. They should be shooting for 7th or 6th spot, and they're absolutely still in the running. They only need 7 to 10 points from their 17 away games. And yes, it looks bad, but that's not a huge mark to get, especially with the talent they have, if they remain optimistic and moving forward.
Is it that sentence there? They should be shooting for 6th or 7th. Isn't that the one that kind of sticks in Timbers fans' craws? Or maybe I'm reading that situation wrong.
I think Bobby's not just saying where their franchise or roster sits. It's this away stretch and just how hard this season was going to be. And also, last year they got in on the back end of the playoffs and they made MLS Cup. So who cares about what that part looks like? I think the point of this is it was never going to be easy. On top of which, I think it could have been a little easier if they had closed their DP signing that they were trying to make in the preseason, which they didn't. But now it's okay because you're going to get an emotional boost, and it's brand new season, and none of the games matter when you get home. So you've got a shot at this, rebooting this. You get a second chance at this. They probably need a center back. They probably want a center forward. We know that, or at least a piece in the attack, whether you think it should be Abobasi or whatever with that. So they have a second shot at this. Just like make 2019 fine, it doesn't matter.
And David, you touched on the point, but it's something we should actually probably pound home. They have a DP spot open, and I disagree with you. You thought that they should have brought him in. No, screw that. Don't make him go through this 12 games in a row on the road.
Make him your Rooney.
Yeah, make him your Rooney. Bring him in. Let him get settled into Portland with all the home games. That is such a huge part of all of this. They really just need to scrape away 7 to 10 points in this first in the 17 road games, and they are fine.
Crew SC, the fans out there, angry at me right now because it took, 25 minutes for us to talk about the top team in the Eastern Conference?
We don't have to call them Crew SC anymore.
I know we don't. Crew. I regretted it from the very second I said it. The Crew are top of the East, and it's quiet, man. It's real quiet, and it's because they're not just banging in goals, Doyle. 7 goals scored. Doesn't matter when you allow 4.
Yeah, 7 goals scored, 3 of them off of set pieces. Josh Williams got the winner this weekend.
It's a beautiful flick. By the way.
It was gorgeous, doing his Gaston Sorrow impression. They haven't been playing the type of aesthetically pleasing, gorgeous, free-flowing soccer. I actually do find it kind of aesthetically pleasing because they're still building up the same way, using the ball really well. But it doesn't produce fireworks, and so people kind of sleep on them because it feels like the same old Crew from the last couple of years. Well, same old Crew from the last couple of years is a really good team and a playoff team. Now, there is a word of warning here. If you look at their expected goals versus expected goals against, they're a middling team. They've only conceded 4 goals this season. One of them was by Zach Steffen. When they had to replace him in the lineup, they got killed 3-0 by Philadelphia, who's another team flying under the radar that we should all be paying a little bit of attention to. There is a canary in the coal mine, at least a little bit, for Columbus, but the way you get into the playoffs and get home field advantage for at least part of it is by taking care of business early in the season. And then when you come to that moment where you have to make an adjustment, you at least have the cushion. You at least have the padding. And we all know Columbus is going to have to make an adjustment in a couple months.
Yeah, to add to that, Matt, Andrew King did an article in The Athletic that had a really interesting quote from Caleb Porter talking about how he thinks this team needs tension. And they got off to a hot start last year and the year before. Then they kind of cruised through the middle of the year. Once they felt like they knew they weren't going to get one of the top 2 seeds, so they weren't going to get the bye. And then they were like, all right, let's just make it into the playoffs. And they struggled for like a 3 or 4 month stretch. And I thought that quote from Caleb Porter, that his team needs the tension, they need the stress, they need to be pushed, went a long way. So I'm actually not as concerned about them hitting that malaise midsummer. So I expect this team to keep on. Matt nailed it, right? They've been winning, but they actually haven't been playing that great. But I would be surprised if they didn't keep getting better since Porter kind of found that little part of them.
You know who else needs tension? Or just like downright insanity? Orlando City. They cannot play a normal game, and they certainly can't play a normal game at home. The Cardiac Cats moniker I always thought was kind of lame. I was like, that's just like used. Everybody has it. It's every single team that's a Wildcat in the NCAA basketball tournament claims that thing. But like, it's true. I knew.
Not like the pure and mighty Jayhawk.
Exactly. There's only one of us. There's a lot of you out there in the Cats. But look, I knew in the last 15 minutes of this game with Colorado up 3-2 that it was about to get stupid. And like, you cannot turn away. There'd already been a weather delay. All of a sudden, Nani hulks out and goes crazy on Kellen Acosta. And Kellen Acosta, by the way, you should go check his tweet. He was not happy about this. He said, #where's my protection? And I backed him up on instant replay because I thought Nani should have been off. But he wasn't. And he comes back and they score 2 goals and they win 4-3. It can't be normal for Orlando. It can't be calm. It can't be professional. It has to just be insanity. But hey, it's a win.
It's a win.
It's a win. I'm really enjoying Nani.
It was entertaining. Nani was fun. I'm with Kellen Acosta, like by the letter of the law, by what we've seen. I mean, Damir Kreilach last week, Nani should have been off, but he wasn't. And it ended up being a fantastic finish. And I understand Colorado Rapids fans are pretty ticked, and I understand Orlando City fans are pretty psyched. The interesting thing from this, and really from the last maybe 3 weeks, 4 weeks for Orlando City, is they have a thing now. They have a thing. They play that 5-3-2 or maybe kind of a 3-5-2, though they fudged it a little bit when Roussel had to come on for Asquez, where they just send Ron on one side and Joao Moutinho on the other side. They said, you're covering 120 yards the whole time. You're just going to do wind sprints the whole time. There's nothing fancy about it. They let the fancy stuff happen in central midfield because they still have some guys who can pass there. And teams are struggling to adapt to it. And we certainly saw that with Colorado. And that's been Colorado's downfall all season long. They have no idea how to handle speed out wide.
We wondered whether Nani would be into it.
Yeah, he's definitely into it. I don't know if this is the best way to use Nani, like in terms of for your return. If you were to say, come to us 3 months ago and say, Nani's going to come to Major League Soccer, where would you put him and how would you play with him? But he's very good, and he seems to be taking a connection to this whole thing, because he had a quote, and we'll talk about it in the mailbag a little, Chris Mueller, but he sat down with him before this game because there's questions of should he start, should he come off the bench, and talk to him about how he should feel about being on the bench and what his role should be. That's a guy who's been with this team for 6 weeks? This is
he called the players on him off the jump.
2 weeks in.
Okay,
so,
guys.
yeah, so he's locked in and he's enjoying it. And I don't know why, but you see the crowd, you see the environment. Why not?
Where would you want them to play Nani with this team in this system?
I'm not saying this team. I'm saying in Major League Soccer.
Yeah.
If you put Nani on a wing, he would eat anyone up.
Yeah, if he was on the wing in Toronto. Yeah, no. If he was playing that wide 1v1 option in Toronto,
and he can come in field and connect and play.
It feels to me in this 11, right? The way they set up, this is perfect. As Matt said, sit deep. Dude, Tom Dwyer and Nani, nobody wants to defend against that team in open space on the break. I am perfectly fine with the way James O'Connor has set this team up so far.
Here comes Tesh Rakandeli. You just said Nani on the Toronto FC wing. What about Arjen Robben? Hey, man, you knew I was going to dig into that rumor. You knew I was going to, because that sounds real fun. It could be false. It could be a bunch of baloney.
I mean, both the Bayern Munich legendary wingers
Wiener Schnitzel
are probably gone this summer, right? Robin and Ribéry. I mean, if you can get him on like a 18-month contract at a reasonable number, and you think that your window is this year or next year, then you probably have to think about it.
But if he's not a DP, yes,
that's what I said, at a reasonable number.
Right, your window's now, but it won't hurt you if it goes wrong. So, that's an ability you've had for player signing that I don't think's existed in Major League Soccer. In the past, could not bring a guy in like that and not potentially set your franchise up to bank everything on it for 5 years. So that's a nice luxury to have. The other one is if DC sells Lucho Acosta. You slide Vasquez inside, and why not play Robin on the wing, and let's go.
You sign who? You slide
Rodriguez, not Vasquez.
Sorry,
Rodriguez.
my bad.
Boy, we're having a shocker.
Yeah.
Oh, it is a shocker.
It's terrible.
Doyle looked at me, though, and I was
what?
is Arjen Robben a professional soccer player?
Yeah.
There was a moment where I was like, I don't know where I am
I'm
right now.
going to make an executive decision and send us straight to break. Miguel Ibarra is on the other side. We'll be right back.
Are you watching the games or just looking at the stats? Email the show at extratime@mlssoccer.com, tweet @extratime, or text the Hot Take hotline with any questions or reactions.
Grey Goose joining. Ibarra cutting it back. Miguel Ibarra, a laser. 2-0, Minnesota United.
Back now on Extra Time, driven by Continental from the AT&T MLS studios in Midtown Manhattan. It's time for our AT&T call to the field, right out to Minnesota to Miguel Ibarra. Miguel, how's it going, man?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing good. Winning changes a club, doesn't it? I had your broadcast partners in here yesterday, Callum Williams, Kinder de St. Aubin, and Jamie Watson, and they were practically walking on air. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling amazing right now with the results we're getting, how the team's working. Really happy with ourselves right now.
So 3 wins on the road in 5 tries as you wait to open Allianz Field. You had 4 wins as a club in MLS on the road and 34 tries before that. What changed? What is different about this team?
For me, I think we added players that we needed that we didn't have last year. We added Ike, who's a big presence in the back. We added Ozzy now, who's a big presence in the middle, as well as Romain on the right. I just think we added players that we didn't have the past 2 years, and I mean they're showing now. I think that the team came together really, really well this year. Everybody's playing for each other, and I mean we talked about it. We were going to have 5 road games. We knew we weren't a team that was known to get wins or 3 points away. So that was one big thing we needed to change if we were going to try and make playoffs this year.
What was it before? Can you pinpoint what it was in those 34 games that just was missing for you guys away from home?
Yeah, I think we just didn't play. We just didn't play how we were used to playing at home. We were always go to a game and play at someone else's house, and every team thought it was easy 3 points. I think now we've shown that we have the players now. We're more collected as a team now, and defensively, we think we're taking more responsibility. We're trying to. We always talk about if we get a clean sheet, or if we don't get scored on, we have a possibility of either getting a point or 3 points out of the game.
Ike and Ozzy, I understand how they change everything on the field. These are best 11 players in this league. That much I think we can all see. But maybe off the field, in moments that we don't see, how do two guys like that change the way it feels within a squad?
That winning mentality. Even off the field, I mean, we play games off the field, and you see Ozzy's really competitive. He doesn't like to lose at any. It doesn't matter if it's soccer, whatever it is, he doesn't like to lose. And if he's losing, he's going to be in a bad mood. So, and then Ike also just coming in and talking about how with Sporting KC, how he thinks he can help the team. And, I mean, those two have just been big leaders for us.
Honey Badger in a bad mood, Miguel, does not sound like a recipe for success. What are the games that if you had to choose that you're going to beat Ozzy at, and what are the games that you know you just should not play him in?
I would say the number one would be probably soccer. That's the one thing he does not like to lose at. I mean, I always mess around with him. We're doing 1v1s and stuff like that, and I'm saying, oh, you're too easy for me, you're too old. And then he's up for the challenge. He comes and he tells me, I thought I was too old. Just being competitive like that.
Un poco viejo. Darwin Quintero, he's not too old, man. He looks great. Give me the player's perspective on him as an attacker. What does he make look easy? What does he do that just kind of leaves you flabbergasted?
I mean, he's probably the smallest guy on the team, the shortest one, and you can't get him off the ball. You think you're gonna beat him. You think you're gonna get the ball easily from him, and there's no way that you're just gonna knock him out of the ball. He plays probably like if he's 6 foot something, and just his ability to just turn, go at people. That was a big help for us last year, and now that we have him this year, hopefully he can get healthy enough for the home opener. He's a big part of the team now, and offensively, he's the one that creates and goes through. The offense goes through him. So
he's dancing a lot, I've noticed. Like, he's got a bunch of different, pretty unique dances. Do you know where that came from? Did he tell everybody, look, when I score goals this year, it's going to be showtime? What's going on with him?
Yeah, I mean, when he scores, he's a big family guy now. So now he scores, and he has 2 kids and his wife. So they each get to pick a dance for him to do if he scores.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Maybe he'll get one at Allianz Field. Of course, this week is all building up to one thing for Minnesota United and their fans. The new stadium opens up on Saturday against NYCFC, 5 p.m. Eastern on ESPN2 if you want to watch that one. I will be there, Miguel. I cannot wait for this. This is the sort of thing, this stadium opening, that can completely change everything that's going around a club that is a club. Like, how is this going to change Minnesota United?
Oh, it's going to be big. I mean, I've been playing for Minnesota since NASL days, and now coming from NSC, then going to the University Stadium, and now to actually having our own specific soccer stadium. It's been a big move. I think it's going to change a lot. The fans have their own stadium now that they can own. That it's their stadium now, so they can own it. We know how loud it's going to be once we get in there. So I think that's just going to be another big boost for us.
I know you're going to be biased on this one, but I'm going to ask anyway. Is it going to be the best soccer stadium in the United States? You've played in most of the others.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I think this is going to be one of the best ones. And I think with the fans that we have, it's just going to make it even better.
So I don't want to belabor this with you, Miguel, but you have the hamstring injury. You missed out this weekend. It looks like in all likelihood that you will miss out on this game. You've been there since 2012. You are the old hand. You are Minnesota soccer now, man. How does it feel to know that you're probably going to miss this match?
I mean, it was a big, for me, this year, that was one of the things I was looking forward to. being in the home opener. Like I said, I've been in here for Minnesota since 2012. So just being in the home opener, being a big part of it, and now knowing that I might be even dress or be with the team. But I mean, for me, it's just getting those 3 points, getting the win for the fans on our first game on the stadium is going to be big for us. But for me personally, it was a big goal I had this year, and unfortunately, it might not happen. But I'm still looking forward. I mean, time to rehab, get 100%.
All right, man. I looked this up right now. You made your professional debut on this day, April 8th, in 2012 for the then Minnesota Stars. Take me back to 2012 in Minnesota professional soccer. What was it like, man? What were you like?
Oh, I mean, when I first got here, it was, I was in my first game was in the stands, probably about 800 people watching the game. And, I mean, for me, it was a big accomplishment because I just wanted to play soccer coming out of college. So just being here was a big privilege for me, and playing with former teammates that I had, which was Monty Walker at the time, who brought me here with Amos, Miguel. So happy I was able to come here. But, I mean, coming to where we're at now to where we used to be, I mean, from 800 people watching our games now to almost having this year sold out every game. So it's been big. It's been probably a big journey for me.
You're a California guy, but like I said, you're basically Minnesota soccer now. You're Batman. You're beloved by this fan base. What does it mean to have that sort of connection with the people that are in the stadium with you watching you play?
I mean, having a connection with the fans is always great for me. I always try to make their day. I always try to play for them, get the win for them. I mean, they've been here since day one. So just now, I mean, just how the kids look up to me, talk to me. I mean, the fans are the ones that gave me the nickname, how you say, the Batman. So, I mean, it's been great. It's been great being here. I mean, they made me feel at home now, and I basically always tell people that this is basically home for me now.
Where did Wonderwall come from? We hear the fans and the players sing it after wins at home, but I need the origin story because I'm pretty sure you were involved in that.
Yeah, so I came into the team, and then I have never heard this song before. So I came to the team, and then right after a win that we had, when I first played my first game, the assistant coach, was Carl Craig, just came into the locker room and started singing it out loud, and the whole team started singing it out loud, and it was new to me. I didn't know the words or anything about the song, so but they said they had done it already the year before I got there when they won the championship. So that's basically it. I mean, I think it's been a big tradition with that song, and ever since that, it's just been going on. And I mean, now when the fans sing it right after our home games, it's just amazing. Now I think every one of the players love that song now. The first year, Calvo came up to me as well and said, "What song is this?" I said, "This is a song that the team's been singing since day one. This is their song that the fans go by." And then now Calvo made it one of his goals to learn all the words to it. So now he's all about the song, and I mean, everybody's been trying to buy into it. So now, just after this Saturday, I'm just looking forward to hearing the whole stadium singing it.
That's the goal. Wonderwall on Saturday, 5 p.m. Eastern, Allianz Field opens up a new era of Minnesota United. Miguel Ibarra will be there. We're not sure in what capacity. Regardless, Miguel, good luck this year. Get healthy, man. We'll be watching you, okay?
Thank you so much.
Big thanks to Miguel Ibarra for joining us here. It's a bummer that it looks like in all likelihood he's going to miss this game on Saturday against NYCFC. He's been there since 2012. Today, April 8th, is the anniversary of his first pro game with then the Minnesota Stars. So he's been there. He's seen it all. 5 p.m. Eastern, ESPN2 on Saturday. They open Allianz Field. It's going to be an awesome thing. We'll cover them more on Thursday. Let's talk CCL. Just because the timing, it's super weird for us. We tape on Thursdays in the afternoon. They're playing these games on Thursday nights. Maybe it's a good thing we're not talking about
it would have been a
this in the heat
very
of the
brown
moment.
liquor special for me if we had done it Thursday night.
5-0. Monterrey in Monterrey. Could have been worse. Could have been better maybe, but it definitely could have been worse. This was pretty much all the nails in the coffin pounded home by the Liga MX side, and
It felt like the
Deja vu.
It felt like the DC versus LAFC game. It was just Sporting kept trying to play up the middle, and they lost every 50-50. I mean, do that against guys like Darlan Pabon and Viles Hurtado, and Funes Mori wasn't great, but he's there, and you got to respect that. You lose bigly.
He's there, and you got to respect that. I'm not going to say who that applies to here. Just gonna throw that out there. What happened, Bobby, and what can they do about it? What should they do about
I
it?
was hoping you didn't come to me.
Yeah. They played the second team against Cincinnati, basically. They changed 8 in the lineup. 3 starters stayed on. They drew 1-1. Gianluca Busio scored again. It's the second goal this year as a 16-year-old. So how do you manage this week if you're Peter? You're going first team, I guess, on Thursday since you rested him on Sunday.
I want to touch back because I spent a ton of time just logically to think about how a coach should approach these games or what they could do different. Like, what is the takeaway moving forward? Yeah, okay, fair. Major League Soccer could spend more money to catch Tigres and Monterrey. We've heard that over and over. Beyond that, what can these teams do? Because it felt like Sporting Kansas City had done it all right, correct? They did the altitude tents. They trained their teams properly. They had already been to Mexico. So what could they have done? And to be honest, guys, I can't think of anything different. I like the way Peter Vermees set up the team. Yes, it was adventurous. Yes, it was naive. Yes, they sent too many players forward. But what's the counter to that, right? Like, isn't the counter what we talk about over and over with the Red Bulls in the playoffs when you switch from what you know? Isn't the counter to that being a little scared instead of being a little confident? So I've been trying so hard to think, as a Major League Soccer coach, what the takeaway is to ensure it is a better result next time. And I think that you have to play the way Sporting Kansas City did, just better. Is that fair?
Does it have to be? Red Bulls, it seemed, was all or nothing.
No, but
does it have to be that with Kansas City in possession?
I think it does because it's your identity.
Okay.
So if it was a different Major League Soccer team who has a different identity, yes, you don't go out and play that adventurous. If it was Portland in this scenario, they wouldn't have played the same way because that's not who they are. But I agree with Bobby in that they weren't going to go down to that environment against that team and get a good result not playing their style.
Yeah.
Because the players are brought in to be that. And we always talk about preseason and where you're at. This team is at a really high level right now because so many pieces came back from last year and because of the consistency from Peter Vermees in the organization. So there was no reason to go there and play a different way. You just got smoked by doing it.
And to add one takeaway I did have, I give them a ton of credit for managing the Independiente series. It felt like they could have managed a segment of this game better. They go down 2-0. Okay, at some point we need to say, maybe let's not try and possess for a second. Maybe let's drop into a deep block. Let's sit in a 4-4-2 and just stop the bleeding for 40, 50 minutes. And they did it at the end of the second half, but they were still trying to play, right? Monterrey was still getting their chances. So maybe my takeaway is I'm fine with the way Vermees had the team start, but maybe Matt Beasley or Adre Fontos needs to say, all right, we are bleeding bad. Let's sit deep and not try and play for a few minutes. It was that adjustment that they could have done different.
And look, that might not have worked either because Monterrey was getting in service basically whenever they wanted to, and Funes Mori is a beast, even though he hasn't really been great in the last 2 months. I don't know. Second leg, 5-0 deficit, 9 p.m. Eastern on Thursday, UDN in Spanish, Yahoo Sports in English. There's some tough decisions, it sounds like. My brother's going to the game. He says, I don't care. I want to see.
Is your brother going? Because we have an email here from Andrew from KC, which I always find.
My brother doesn't have the same name as me.
Yeah, but we know that you can change your address.
Yeah,
and
I would
what you
always
want
say
to
from
do.
Brooklyn, though. You know it, from the Tire District.
He said emotions being high after the first leg talked me off the ledge. Should I even attend the second leg?
Yeah,
against
you should
Monterrey?
attend.
Of course.
It's a CONCACAF Champions League semifinal. Don't take it for granted. You're not going to advance, but it's a moment. This is an accomplishment to be there, and I think this team, you have to honor guys like Beasler and Zusi and Sinovic and Roger Espinoza and Tim Melia and Peter Vermees himself, who have built this team to be so consistent and put out a good, entertaining product that often wins championships year after year after year. Do not be a jerk. Support your team.
Also, if it does happen and you're not there,
Wow, yeah, that's true.
I mean,
You'll be lying for the rest of your life and
my-
telling
yeah.
people that you were there.
and
let me
regardless,
tell you, in 2019, I was on the field.
go for Kansas City, but also go because it's
Yeah.
Monterrey as well. Like
To see the best team in the
You're going
region.
to see your team with pride on the line. Like they don't want it to be 10-0. Monterrey, we'll see what team they play, but yeah, why wouldn't you go? You have tickets, what else are you
Monterrey's a
doing?
wagon. I know they got smoked this weekend, but this is a $90 million game.
5-1 Toluca. What a bizarre world.
Just don't cheer for Monterrey, am I right?
Yeah, I think you're right about that one. No doubt about that. All right, we're going to break. Much more from Week 6. We'll cover it later on Thursday and throughout the week. number 5 all time, Kai Kamara in goals. Big congratulations to him. Let's go to break. On the other side, the mailbag.
Are you watching the games or just looking at the stats? Email the show at extratime@mlssoccer.com, tweet at Extratime, or text the Hot Take hotline with any questions or reactions.
Headed into the box. Here's Mueller.
This young man is a star in the making for Orlando City.
Back now in Extra Time, driven by Continental. Chris Mueller is coming up here in the mailbag. 401-206-0MLS. That's how you text us at the Hot Take Hotline. Email us, extratime@mlssoccer.com. When I saw Mueller celebrate that goal, when I just kind of see his personality come out, I think Bad Boys 2 with him and Dom Dwyer. I don't know, like a buddy cop movie?
You're looking in the wrong direction.
No? Like a buddy cop movie? You don't think that could work out? No?
Potentially.
Okay, I'll go back to central casting with that one. Sorry about that, guys. We threw out some names, Arjen Robben being a big one, but we did not talk about Taylor Twellman. Of course, there's a lot of news swirling around the Chicago Fire right now. You can read all that from The Athletic's Paul Tenorio and others. But he tossed out, in addition to a possible move to Soldier Field, 2 names. One that he threw out on this show in our very first video/podcast episode, Chicharito. Okay.
This is for the Fire.
Yeah, for the Fire.
Yep.
Robert Lewandowski is the other one, and Taylor doesn't tend to just like throw names out there willy-nilly. He doesn't, let's say, guess.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
That would be legit.
Lewandowski's 30. He's still the best goal scorer. Is still the best all-around striker in the Bundesliga. He's made noises over the last couple of years of kind of wanting out from Bayern Munich.
There was a real question going into this season.
Yeah, and Real Madrid just didn't meet the asking price, I believe. Mm-hmm. But he's winding down his contract, I think, in the next 18 months.
And he has nothing left to prove in Germany. So the question is, what's next for him?
Right.
Real Madrid sounds like what's next as one option. The other option is to try something new.
I don't know if Real Madrid is going to have a 31-year-old striker.
But like a PSG, a Juve, Real Madrid, one of those clubs.
You would think.
Where you're like, oh, I'll finish off and try and win another championship.
And we're not saying this is going to happen. There are big names rumored with MLS teams all the time. But if Taylor Twellman mentions it on an ESPN broadcast during halftime of how to help fix this team, he didn't pull the name out of a hat.
And logistically, they have 3 DPs, but they could buy down Katai with Tam. So they
could, and they shopped Nemanja Nikolic.
Right.
And they have to if they're bringing in
Lewandowski. If you get either of those, you're moving Nemanja Nikolic.
Yeah. But would Lewandowski even start over CJ Sapong, given that touch Sapong had this weekend?
I don't know.
Come on, no, I mean
Namaste.
that touch from CJ Sapong was godly.
Off the bounce too, underside of the front.
Really good.
Just
not a great moment for Alex Bono.
A 2-2 draw for Toronto and Chicago Fire. Pozuelo hooked up with Josie again. What do we have in the mailbag, though?
Speaking of world-class players, Chris Mueller.
Yes, sir.
Boy, was that just for Ben Bear?
Should he start for Orlando City? As an OC fan that was at the game, the entire crowd was itching for Mueller to come on as soon as it went down. We went down 3-2. Fans in my section, including myself and around the stadium, were chanting, "We want Mueller." I was sitting by the warm-up section, and as soon as Mueller got called over to be subbed on, the entire crowd stood up and gave him a standing ovation. Mueller is fantastic. He's the spark Orlando needs. Should he be a super sub or not? Now
you missed the part where this fine listener said, "I personally think he's one of the best players OC has ever had." So I mean, the Chris Mueller hype is
sort of also
extremely real.
That's not exactly
the highest bar.
Yeah.
I then went on to Reddit, of course, as I do all the time. Boats with Goats posted an article in which he put together Mueller's starts versus not starts, 2.2 goals per 90 as a sub, 0.5 goals per 90 as a starter, 2.2 assists per 90 as a sub, 0 assists as a starter, and 8.78 shots per 90 as a sub.
I'm going to do my Ben Bear impression here on this Monday. Sample size. Yelling about those sorts of things.
Do you have an opinion on if Chris Mueller should be a starter or a sub?
I think it's game states. If you look at his, when he comes on as a sub, Orlando City have had a lead like twice in their existence. So they don't make subs to kill off games. They make subs to chase the game. And so you're going to get usually going to get a lot more of the ball. You're usually going to have a lot more activity in the attacking third. And if he has full energy, he's great in those situations. when it's an even game state from the start, Orlando City have traditionally struggled. So I understand using him as that sort of change of pace attacking guy. That said, at some point, if the guy produces this much, you have to try him from the start. You have to give him a run of like 5 or 6 games as a starter and see if you can actually play games where you're not trying to come from behind.
Moving on, Bearded Jack, thank you to a legend. Is it just me or is Chris Armas trying to reinvent the wheel? Feels like he's undervaluing the loss of Adams in the middle by playing Davis as a single pivot too often and also maybe overcomplicating the attack.
It's a good question, Bearded Jack. Real quick on Davis and the way they played. They, by my eyes, played a 4-4-2 diamond. So Davis was a single pivot, but a single pivot in a diamond, which is a little different than playing it in other ways. He had Cáceres nearby. It was often a box when they were in possession with Cáceres as a double pivot next to him. Here's my quick thought on the Red Bulls and Chris Armas right now. And there's 2 parts we have to think about. Teams play them very differently than they've ever played them before. Back in the day, we used to say, oh my God, did you see Greg Berhalter have his team play long off goal kicks? And we'd be good for Greg Berhalter for adjusting. Everyone does those things against them now. Chicago did it last week. Minnesota did it this week, where teams are just saying, screw it, we cannot pass through the press. There had to be an adjustment. I shouldn't say there had to be an adjustment. One can understand why Chris Armas feels he needs to adjust when teams don't allow them to press. The second part is the expectation, the standard that he has. Supporter Shield means nothing to Red Bulls at this point, right? Their bar, the only thing that makes their season a success is winning MLS Cup. And I don't know how you say that they press with Dax McCarty, they press with Tyler Adams, they lose those 2 players, and they're going to have a chance in the playoffs pressing again? Like, what? I guess what I'm trying to say is I don't think that the way they've performed through these first 5 games tells me that they're any farther away from winning MLS Cup than if they had win the first 5 pressing and crushing teams.
They didn't lose because they were pressing. They lost because they didn't finish the chances they created. And that was true in 2017. It was true in 2018 against Chivas. It was true in the Open Cup final. It was true in 2016. It was true in 2015. And they don't have another way of creating chances. Kaku has not been that guy. And they don't have a playmaking winger. And they don't have a secondary real chance creator as either a second forward or a shuttler in the 4-4-2 diamond. You and I could not have more dissimilar views of this. I think that Chris Armas' changes, while I understand why he felt the need to change, I think he forgot the original lesson, which is that this team can't do it if they play a different way. And the main issue for the Red Bulls hasn't been the press. It's been the lack of top-end talent in the attacking third to finish teams off when they have a foot on their throat.
I'm not going to disagree with anything you said, right? Because this team has clearly regressed in their overall ability. I think the only point is how many times can you name something happening before you say, actually, maybe there's a reason that it's happening. Maybe there's a source for it. Maybe they missed chances in all of those games because they were getting opportunities that didn't suit them or they didn't have the right mindset. And I don't blame a human being for looking at an occurrence happening most times that it came up and saying, maybe we need to do something differently. And Matt, you're exactly right. Do they have the personnel? Do they have the mindset? Do they have all these things to switch? Probably not. But going back to the base question, was the original plan enough? I think it's also fair to say maybe or probably not, so we have to at least try.
We're going to continue debating this all season, which I'm pumped about. Let's give you a little debate fodder here. Brendan Aronson just outplayed Paxton Pomykal and personally still higher on Pomykal, this fan says, but is it time we start respecting the Medford Messi even more?
I mean, it's his 4th start. He's looked pretty good to very good throughout. He was a 10 in that first game against Atlanta, and he's been really functional, I think, as an 8 on the side of the diamond. Since then, he has a lot of tools. He's a good young player. I'm hyped about him. I like that Jim Curtin has trusted him, and I think Jim Curtin is a really good coach and is proving it again this year. I mean, I don't know. Is it time that we start respecting him even more? Is he honestly one of the 6 best players on that team? Not yet. You know, is he a guy who you're going to plug into the U20s and have him, totally control the game against an England or a France, where 2 of the best teams in the world at that age? Probably not at this point. But he's a guy who could hold his own there, and I think that's fine. We don't have to say he's the second coming.
He has to be Messi or Iniesta.
Okay.
That's the only way you
when
can
you're
discuss
from Medford.
this.
I will say this: the difference between Pomykal and Aronson right now. Pomakal's a year older, just about, and Pomykal has had entire games where he has been the best player on the field for either team. And we've seen it against the likes of the Galaxy when they had Jonathan Dos Santos and, full internationals out there. Aronson hasn't had that yet. He's had moments where he's looked really, really competent. The other thing is Paul McCall has what appears to be elite agility and quickness. He can get by guys, which you need at the highest level. I'm not sure Aronson has that.
We shall see. Medford Messi or
That's
Haitian
a bad
Javi?
name.
Or Haitian Javi?
It's a bad name. That's
It is.
all.
Yeah.
That's literally
It's a-
all I want to say in this segment. It's a bad name.
How
Walk away from that.
about the Medford Modric?
Oh. Still
Better though.
Yeah, you
It's
you
better,
toned it
though.
down and then you jumped it right back.
No,
up.
I mean, like, if you want to compare, like, he doesn't play like Messi. He's not
Yeah, for
like,
sure.
he's more of a guy who will try to.
That's the problem
key.
with the
yeah,
nickname.
there's a little bit of that's the one. That's the only issue there. All right, that's it from us. Miguel Ibarra, big thank you to him for coming on. I will be in Minnesota Friday and Saturday, so if you want to, maybe I don't know, have
Bobby
a beer,
the
do something.
Mechanicsburg Messi.
Yeah, that's everyone's already known that. For a
Yeah,
while.
for sure, for sure.
I prefer the Mechanicsburg Makalele personally.
All right, let's get out of here. Thanks, guys, for hanging out. We will see you later this week, everybody.
The Port Washington Pedro.